Hello everybody and welcome back. It's been a bit of a crazy and chaotic week for me, as they seem to be as of late, so apologies for that. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter video than I would like, but we're going to try to pick up here on the old Chevelle right where we left off, trying to get that Brawler dialed in and get this thing ready to go back to the track. There's only a couple of test and tune sessions left of the year, and I'd like to make it out to each one. Now there's also a couple of safety concerns I've got. If you remember, the headlights on this thing are terrible. The last time we were at the track, I was trying to race home before it got dark. That didn't work out. Had to drive this thing back in the dark, and it was just terrifying. So I want to try to get these headlights actually shining on the road instead of just directly down in front of the car. I want to make it where the taillights are actually a little bit brighter and you can see this thing if you happen to be behind me. That sort of stuff. So if we're out there, it gets dark, I don't have to worry about rushing home. In addition to that, had a couple other things going on this week. Took the Chevelle here out to its very first car show. Usually I take my Fairlane, but the engine's getting a little bit sour in there, so the Chevelle was next up on the line. Took it out there and people either loved it or hated it, pretty much as I expected. But it was the poker run, so it gave me the opportunity to take the car out for a run, drive with a couple of other cars here, and just see how that Brawler was doing. And well, it's definitely pretty fat at cruise. It's down in the mid-12s and you're just at a nice steady cruise. Probably not where you want it to be. Wide open throttle is still a little bit fat as well, down in the deep 11s. And then light kind of transitions and just like light soft acceleration end up being really lean. So we're going to kind of throw a whole lot of changes at this thing all at once. And if you've seen Freiburger's video, we're kind of doing the opposite of what he suggests. Normally you want to do one thing at a time. But since I am strapped for time, we're going to do 3 things at once. We're going to change the power valve, the primary jet size, and the secondary jet size, as well as probably playing around with the accelerator pump cams, all trying to get this thing dialed in one foul swoop because I am just short for time this week. So what do you do when an old family friend who also happens to be a YouTuber gives you a call and asks if you can check out your collection? Well, you put on a little impromptu car show. So a good family friend of mine, Brett from Moore's Garage, is coming on down, so I just lined up all my cars here. Got my 2020 C8 Corvette, my 1959 Ford Fairlane Skyliner, retractable hardtop, my 70 Chevelle SS 396. We've got my 1931 Ford Model A Coupe. We've got my flathead V8 powered 1930 Ford Model AA Express, even though that is a fake Express box on there, it's actually from a TT. Next to that, we've got a genuine 1929 Ford Model AA. That one is a real Express. That one there was pretty excited about. And down here on the end, we've got my 1957 Austin Healey 100-6. This thing is just kind of waiting for me to get some time to get back to it. Started stripping it down and doing rust repair, but I was just waiting on some panels to come in and some stuff like that. But hopefully get back to that here over winter. Got a lot of rust repair to do on that. The only car that's running that is actually missing from the group is way over there, a 1963 Impala, and as you know, that has become my workbench, so a bit too cluttered to drag that out here. I've got one other old car you haven't seen yet, and that's my 1957 Chevy. That is the only old vehicle I own that doesn't actually run. All of the vehicles you see here actually drove to their positions. And well, the 57 Chevy, I've owned that for a number of years, but it's a basket case. We'll get back to that some other time, but gonna go ahead and just wait for him to get here, and he's gonna go through all the cars and put them up on his channel, so I'll drop a link down below to that and you can go ahead and check it out. Definitely been a crazy week, but gonna try to get to the Chevelle here this week and get it ready to go to the track, but unfortunately it's a little bit of a sad time as well. I got some unfortunate news this week that my cousin had passed away unexpectedly. If you'd been following the channel, you knew the whole reason I bought this car is because my father has an L78 that came out of his 70 Chevelle. And if you'd seen the videos about that, I was trying to chase down all the stories and everything I could about that engine. And well, my cousin, he grew up with my father pretty much almost like brothers, and he was my last real connection back to all of my dad's stories now that he is gone. And I reached out to him, and that was kind of our way of reconnecting. Just kind of moved away, didn't really keep in contact all that much, and this car kind of brought us back together to being able to just talk about the engine, stuff and plans like that I had for this thing. And well, It's a bit sad being out here wrenching on it now that he's gone, knowing that I wasn't able to get that L78 fired up for him one last time. So definitely a little bit sad being out here trying to wrench on it, but we're just going to get through it and see what we can get done. As you can see, picked up some new lenses here for the rear. The ones that are on the car are in pretty dang terrible condition. You can barely see through these things when the lights are on. They got a bunch of cracks in them and that sort of stuff, so go ahead and replace on that to make it where people can actually see us as we're rolling down the road. Wish these things would have came with gaskets and that sort of stuff, or screws, but I guess we're kind of on our own there. I think all the screws are in the ones we've got, so hopefully we'll be able to make this work. So I did go through and just spray those out with brake parts cleaner and try to clean up all the dirt and other grime back there just to see if we can get it to reflect a tiny bit better, but as you can see, it's not the greatest. Probably need the entire housing again to really get some good light through here, but having the new lenses should help tremendously. So I'm not sure if the camera's going to quite pick up on the difference here, but this side here, the one that we've just put in there, you got a lot more light coming through. Definitely looks a lot brighter than over here is typically what you had in the past. It's just kind of a little bit muted there. I mean, it kind of makes the lens actually light up a little bit more, because it's just capturing all that light, but the further away from it, the dimmer it looks. This doesn't really look like a taillight or anything. And then over here now we've got plenty of light shining through that, so definitely a big improvement. So here we are with the finished result. Definitely improves rear lighting quite a bit. Should hopefully keep anybody from running into the back of us. So next up on the list, we need to do something about the lighting here at the front of the car. This is probably the scariest thing remaining on the car right now. Is driving this thing at night is absolutely horrifying. These lights just shine directly onto the ground. You can't see nothing in front of you. If you remember right, over here on the driver's side, none of this existed. I had to get the little front cover here, had to get new buckets and everything else, so I ended up going through and just doing new buckets on the entire car here. The lights themselves are fairly dim. I'll probably replace those with LED at some point in time, but for right now, even if I had LEDs on here, it would do no good because they just shine directly towards the ground. And I've got all the hardware adjusted pretty much all the way across, trying to raise the beams up as much as possible, and I'm just out of adjustment. There's no more to go, and it's still on the ground. I think the reason for that is I think the car had just been in too many accidents. I think that core support is just shoved inwards here at the bottom. And if you remember right, I had to cut that thing up over here to kind of lower it down and a bunch of other stuff, and just don't think it's in there at the right angle. And I've tried to get it more straight, but with the way that the fenders are all mangled up and everything else, it just doesn't quite work. So we're going to see if maybe we can just get something jammed in behind the bottom edge of these things to get them to point upwards just a little bit more, because this is just not going to work as it is. So let me go ahead and pull off the covers here and stuff like that and take a peek in there and see what I can figure out. See, I think our core support is just a little bit too beat up, and that's what's really fighting us here, but I've got the adjustment screws as far in as they'll go, and the little plastic standoffs there are actually hitting behind there. I might see if I can just turn those around and face them the other direction. I think I tried that at one time, but it was just pulling them right out of the core support. But if I do that, it looks like it might give me about another 1/4 inch of space to try to just suck that top in a little bit better. Not sure if that's going to work. Otherwise, I might just try to find something I can jam behind these things just to get these bottoms just to pull up a tiny bit more. And we'll see how that works, and we'll go from there. So I went ahead and swapped the standoff direction around on the top there. You can see it's now facing the other way. It did actually stay in place this time, so that's a good sign. Didn't end up needing to do it for the one on the side here, but it's looking a lot more level just by eyeballing it here right now, so I'm pretty happy with that. Gonna go ahead, probably turn off the lights here and just get a peek of how close it might be, see if there's any other adjustments I need to make. I believe that's going to be the high beam there, so if that works out for that one, we'll come back to the low beam on the outside there and probably try the exact same thing. Try to flop that around, see if that'll let me get these things dialed in just a little bit higher. And if that works for these two, I'm hoping it'll work for those over there as well. And hopefully we'll be able to actually see when we drive this thing at night. So here's what we've got after the adjustments so far. It is certainly better than what it used to be, but as you can tell, still not very good overall. So this is the low beams. This one over here on the driver's side is much better than what it used to be. That one would basically shine up to about this grass spot right here. Before, that was about as far as it would make it. So it's certainly a lot better, but that is as high up as it will go, even with that adjuster turned the other direction. So I think it's certainly better than what it was. Let's go ahead and hit high beams and see what those look like. All right, so now check out the difference now between the high beams. See how that one's actually shining down and actually hitting my AA over there. Then we've got the other one on the passenger side there that's right there in front of the car, probably only about 10 feet. So made a huge difference here on the brights. That is significantly better than it was. So here with our low beam test against the garage door, they're actually not that bad. They're about even now. Could probably try to bring them up just a touch, especially the driver's side. That one's the one that's really lagging down there, but they're certainly better than what they were. So with our high beams here, you can see that the driver's side's about the same as it was on the low beams, but the passenger side is much lower. The high beam is actually this low light, and then we got the low beam right above it. So I think I just need to do the same thing I did over here on the driver's side to the passenger side, and we should be good to go. So under the hood here, not a whole lot has changed since the last time you saw it. I did finally get a stud there to put an air cleaner on here, but ended up having to put my Impala's air cleaner on here because the stud wasn't quite long enough to work with the other one that I've got. But I want to figure out how to get the other one back on here since that's the one that came off my dad's car. But this will do just fine for now. Other than that, I did come through and swap out the cams on the accelerator pump over here on this side for the secondaries. I've got the orange cam installed. On the other side, I've got the white cam installed. That helped tremendously with just kind of getting that transition there into wide open throttle a whole lot better. Before, it was getting awfully lean at pretty much any RPM. If it was off idle, if it was off cruise, anything like that, trying to get to wide open throttle, it would get really lean. But so far, it's doing pretty dang good. Now, I am going to make quite a number of changes at this thing. The cruise is a little bit fatter than where I'd like it. We've kind of got a lean spot to when we're sort of just slowly accelerating. So we might try to look at changing out the power valve to deal with that as well. And then we're really fat on the top end, so going to try to change out the secondary jet size too. So a lot of changes being made at once. Not ideal to do it this way, but short for time. So we're just going to take a big swing at this thing. So I went ahead and just pulled the entire carburetor off the car here. Makes it a bit easier, especially if you're working on both bowls. Getting access to this rear bowl is kind of a nightmare with it on the car. But as we can see here, it's got the jet extensions on there. Did pull the jets off, made sure they are indeed 84s. See that it doesn't have a power valve back here in the rear, so we're just going to be changing out jets, going down to 80s back here. Hopefully that should be enough to get us kind of in that mid-upper 12s range when we're just winding out the RPM. And then we'll probably end up pulling off the front and making a couple changes up there as well. Probably going to put 72s up front. It should have 74s right now. And we might actually go ahead and change out on the power valve as well. It's a 6.5 up front. And it does pretty good, but under like light cruise, we're a little bit fat, and then just kind of partial off throttle, slight acceleration, it's starting to kind of lean out just a touch. So the car makes decent vacuum. It's probably pulling around like 15 inches, somewhere around there at idle. Probably around like 10 inches or so at that point where it's starting to lean out. So if I can bring the power valve and kind of get that to open up just a touch sooner, that may end up helping out that kind of slow, mild acceleration. It's pretty good everywhere else. So we're going to make a couple of changes. I know technically you should only really make one change at a time, but we're just going to throw a couple of things at this, see how close we can get. If you check out Freiburger, he just released a great video on going through this exact carburetor, stuff like that. And thankfully it seems like I'm not entirely off my rocker when it comes to at least what I understood for how you dial these things in. So just going to go ahead and slap this thing back together here, probably skip over going into the finer details and get this thing back on the car. So I got everything put back together again, started it up, just was dialing the idle back in again. Transfer slots are just about perfect. They're nice and square, nice and small on here, so everything should be set up pretty happy there. I think we're getting pretty close. It's getting just a little bit too dark to go ahead and take it out for a quick test drive, so I'll have to go ahead and try that tomorrow, but thinking we're going to be very close. So I got her fired back up here. It's a little bit on the cold side. I got dragged away from a couple of things here, but should be good to go for a test drive. Essentially what we're trying to do right now is just clean up on our cruise just a little bit, get that leaned out just a touch. We're obviously not going for perfect. It is just a Brawler race series on this. We don't really need it to be perfect, but just getting a little bit better. And then we want to get our wide open throttle closer to the mid 12s. Right now it's kind of mid 11s, somewhere in that vicinity. If we can lean that out just a touch, and then hopefully we'll make part throttle acceleration just a little bit better with the power valve change. So usually you should only really change one thing at a time. We kind of changed a bunch. Not really the way to do it, but I'm in a hurry, so we're just going to go and see what happens. Let's hit the road here and see what we get. Probably take it a little bit easy for right now because it is cold. And we're not really too concerned with what the gauge reads. We just want it to drive nice and run nice and smooth at all the different ranges. So looking real good here at part throttle. Wrench at cruise. That's looking a little better. Let's try to get to just like the mid 13 range, somewhere closer to the 14s. Get it away from these deep 12s. It's looking pretty good at this real light cruise. It's kind of right there at the high 13s, low 14s. Not bad at all for that. Seems to be doing pretty good at the light acceleration, takeoff, things like that. So I think we're getting pretty close. So again, so far I'm very happy with the results. Like part throttle is staying pretty good. It's staying down like 13s now instead of, it was getting a little bit lean before, and that's why I changed the power valve. But all seems to be doing really good so far. See there, it gets up a little bit leaner there when you start to accelerate a little bit more, but not bad. Just a nice, light, steady acceleration up the hill there. Pretty solid. On a little bit, just making sure we're actually in third here. Yeah, see how she's staying near the 12.3s now? A lot happy with the results so far. We're staying now in the 12s instead of dropping down into the mid 11s. We're kind of getting like the 12.2, 12.3 under these sustained pulls. That is a lot better than what it was. Our cruise is still pretty fat for the most part here and there. We do get just a touch bit lean here if I really get on it from a standstill. Better than what it's been. It feels like it's pulling way better than it ever has, so we might just leave it there for now. But that felt fantastic compared to what it used to be before. It used to just feel like it kind of fall off there in the upper bands, and it just pulls nice and clean now. So I think we're going to call this good. Now we could continue tuning on this thing and keep chasing after that gauge, searching after just the best curves we can get, but I think we're pretty dang close. Our cruise is still a little richer than what I would like it to be. I don't know if there's a whole lot that we can do with that on this particular carburetor. It might just be a little bit of it is what it is. It's definitely better than how it was before. It is certainly a good bit leaner on the primary side of the circuit for just kind of those light throttles, cruising around, low speed driving. It's really good there. It's just when we're kind of at our highway speed cruise that it gets a little bit fat again. However, changing out the power valve there definitely helped with what I was experiencing before, was where when I'd be on the kind of those highway speeds there, it'd be nice and fat, and then I'd kind of roll into the throttle ever so slightly, just kind of going up a hill, stuff like that. I'd get a pretty big kind of lean spot there. And that seems to just about be completely gone now. It seems to be just, it'll lean out just a little bit, which is fine, because you're really not under that much load that it's going to detonate or anything like that. But it feels a lot cleaner now. Before it was getting up to like the 15s, sometimes even the 16s under those really light kind of acceleration situations. Seems to be doing much better now. Very happy with that result as well. And then our wide open throttle side was very happy with those changes. In addition, it definitely leaned us out quite a bit there when we were just standing on it. Most of the times I was seeing around like 12.2, 12.3, sometimes even around like a 12.4. I think on that last couple of pulls there when I had taken the corner, I saw it get down to the 11s again. So it's always a little bit tricky sometimes when it's a little bit inconsistent like that, but I think it was still high 11s, which is a lot better than the really low 11s that we were getting the last time around. So I think I'm going to call this good enough for right now. I think we can go ahead and just take this out to the track, make a couple of passes, see what we get for our results out there at the track, just kind of wide open throttle the entire way down. And if we got to come back and tweak on the secondaries a little bit more, then we can do that based on that information. But it feels significantly better in the top end with this thing on here. The quadrujets, everything else, it just kind of feel like it would lay down on the upper end, and this thing just continues to pull all the way up to the shifts now. Feels really good. So have high hopes. I think we might be able to get to those low 13s with this thing on there. Not sure if we're going to bring out the quadrujet just yet because I'm just kind of pinched for time, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's going to do it here this week. Just a big thank you again to everyone that watches. Just a reminder to get off your butts, get out there, make memories in these things. Don't wait, don't delay. And I'll catch you next week, hopefully from the track.